This market is about to go absolutely crazy. Yesterday, I uploaded a video talking about how the craziest bull run is brewing behind the scenes, including, of course, for altcoins. And a lot of people were pretty upset about that video, saying blah, 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 nothing new, this, that, whatever in the comments. But I want you guys to understand exactly what's happening here. In fact, I'm going to show you proof on exactly why this market is about to erupt higher and why we need to be very cautious towards the end of this year. So let's dive on in. Let's actually start off with a few things. Number one, let's talk about the market reaction today. So Bitcoin is down 1.15% on the 24-hour span. And everyone's upset because altcoins are going with it. A lot of altcoins are actually taking a pretty big hit today. And this is because of how high dominance actually is. But some altcoins are actually showing a lot of strength. For an example, XRP is still up 1.42% today. It did run all the way to about $2.32 before it having a big sell-off. Now that's because, of course, the market did have a nice little sell-off today as well. This is what Bitcoin looks like today. Pretty boring chart. I mean, for Bitcoin, it's actually pretty boring, which is why a lot of altcoins are actually having a nice little run up today until, of course, the sell-off. But I'll talk a little bit more about what to expect going forward this week. There is a lot of huge announcements coming out, but there's also something around the Fed that's telling us to be very, very bullish. But when we look at the top gainers and the top losers today, this is what the top 24-hour span looks like in the last, 24 hours for the top 100. I mean, 4.33% being the best is not that crazy. Last 7 days also pretty, average. Nothing too crazy here. Most altcoins are just brewing, right? They're just consolidating off of the lows. A good example of this is like XLM. For an example, I have XLM open over here. XLM is just consolidating on the lows. HBAR also consolidating on the lows as well. Nothing too crazy there. SUI is actually in a pretty good setup here. It does have a higher low. We're just waiting for higher highs to be taken out. I have this on the 2-week chart, but again, on the macro, these things look absolutely beautiful. They're just ranging on major support levels with a nice reaction so far off of the lows. Even HBAR is a perfect example of this. XLM also a perfect example of this. XRP, I will say XRP's chart looks absolutely beautiful. This is just consolidating until we see a nice impulse. We already have a nice low back here. We have a higher low, and now we want to take out these highs to create a higher high. Again, I do think that we probably have a nice little run up here to about $2.46. A nice retest of the lows before we go crazy. I'm totally fine if we do avoid this low and we just kind of go crazy on XRP. That is a possibility. We just have to watch for a close above like $2.46 or so. But XRP does look beautiful here. Even the XRP Bitcoin pair, even though we're trading at lower lows compared to some of these lows on the chart so far in 2025 and even going back to the December 2024 low, the main thing that I'm actually looking at here on the XRP Bitcoin pair is the reaction off of this trend. The main thing that we're looking at, because we're on the weekly here, is a break back over this level at about 2,152 sats. We want to clear this level on this chart. That way we could actually start a breakout against Bitcoin. That won't happen, if I'm being honest with you guys, until we start to see Bitcoin dominance get a little bit weaker and we really start to see altcoins breaking out against Bitcoin. That's when we start to really kind of see alt season really start to show up. That's like the biggest move of the cycle. So we might brew a little bit longer here before we get that big break, but we're already consolidating on the Bitcoin pair while the USD pair is starting to have a nice little move. Today's move wasn't anything special. I mean, we hit $2.33 or so, but we have yet to actually clear some of the key levels on the weekly, which is why I think that the higher time frames are more important to actually watch than the lower time frames, because a lot of people will share like 15-minute charts and say, oh, look at XRP's breaking out, even though when you zoom out, we're pretty far away from actually breaking out. So again, just be a little bit more patient here. But everyone was a little bit panicky today because Bitcoin did drop about 1.2% and altcoins did kind of follow in a huge way. Again, this is because of Bitcoin dominance. This is why I've always stated that, we really need to keep a close eye on Bitcoin dominance for any significant weakness, because right now trading at 65%, any move on Bitcoin does get exaggerated on altcoins, which is why even though Bitcoin only dropped 1.2%, we have some altcoins that are down 3, 6, 8, 10%. So again, just be a little bit cautious here. Don't be in a rush to jump into altcoins just yet until we start to see, strong weakness moves on this chart. And those moves are kind of similar to like the May move or even back here in November. This is what we actually want to see. We want to see extremely big red candles that are very bearish, that are telling us, all right, Bitcoin is getting pretty weak here. The show is going to be on altcoins. We're not there yet, but I do think that we are getting there. Now, let's actually talk about a few things. Let's talk about why stocks are making a new all-time high. And also, by the way, so far, very good start to the week. This is what the daily looks like as well for stocks. Stocks continue to rally. We're at 6,200. I stated that the next level on stocks, on the S&P at least, will be 6,960. I do believe that we get there. We're actually a little bit lower now compared to what we were at previously. We're about almost 12% flat away from this level. I do think that this is the next target. And yes, crypto will follow. Crypto typically lags behind stocks. Right now, Bitcoin is not trading at a new all-time high. Most altcoins are not even trading close to a new all-time high. And we're still focused on stocks being the big, mover right now. Crypto follows it. It just takes a little bit of time, but we will also be trading at new all-time highs. Why are stocks making new all-time highs? Well, number one, we're coming off of this V-wave structure, right? We're having a V-wave recovery on stocks, which is very bullish. We're now in price discovery. We probably continue to pump throughout the rest of this year. The reason why is because liquidity. We have the FOMC meeting upcoming in 29 days, 15 hours. Right now, there's a 20.2% chance of a rate cut, or at least that's what people believe. We don't know if we get a rate cut in July. Okay, July it's questionable for a rate cut decision. Is the ammunition still there for the Fed to say, hey, we don't want to cut rates because of tariffs and the trade war and, possibly inflation brewing still? That argument is still there for the Fed to actually utilize. By September, that argument goes out the door. There's actually a 93.2% chance of a rate cut decision in September. This would follow the same exact path that the Fed did back in 2024 as well. I do think that this is a possibility. I think that we probably get a pause in July, then the cut in September. I would love to see a cut in July and September. That would be huge for the markets, but it's questionable on what happens. Why do I think, though, that the Fed is about to cut rates in a huge way? Well, it's because they're already starting to flood the system with liquidity, which is why stocks are actually making a new all-time high. Obviously, stocks were already oversold, and that's why they're bouncing back. But, for a new all-time high, we need to have fresh liquidity. And guess what? We got it. Check this out. This was the first material usage of the Fed's standing repo facility since the end of Q3 of 2024. By the way, this is overnight repurchase agreements. This is bailouts for banks as well. We saw this back in 2023, right? They dipped into this for the 2023 bank collapses, which everyone was so panicky about as well. Guess what? We saw all-time highs after that for a lot of things, okay? Now, we also saw the market around crypto explode. I'm going to share with you guys that insight as well here in a second. But yeah, this is crazy. We're seeing this absolutely skyrocket. And if we go back to March of 2023, this is when the crypto banks started to collapse. This is where, Operation Choke Point 2.0 became like a huge talking subject. Guess what? This is the total crypto market cap. We had a massive V-wave recovery. We continued to break out all the way into April. We sold off a bit. And then we just continued to kind of consolidate up until, of course, October. But the main thing that we were looking at is the reaction that the market had from the Fed bailing out banks again. It's no different today, except this is what the overall chart looks like on the weekly, where we are in a strong wedge here, squeezing on the total just waiting for a big break. I do believe that the Fed is injecting liquidity into stocks to make a new all-time high. By the way, let's go all the way back to March of 2023. Here we have March of 2023. This is the base start of this rally. It continued to skyrocket and make a new all-time high by almost the end of the year. Into 2024, this thing just continued. That's because liquidity was supporting the market. Now we have fresh liquidity entering the market again, and it's not just by repo, facility. This is not just from overnight repurchase agreements. We also know that there's more liquidity to this. I said even over here, the Fed is injecting liquidity silently and everyone is celebrating. We are about to have the last wave hit the market in a big way. But once it crashes, you better have taken profits off the table and de-risk. Because yes, we are going to enter a bear market yet again. Yes, we're going to have a massive crash because, again, this is all moving off of Fed liquidity. Here we have the Fed is now providing Wall Street with liquidity through 3 different facilities. Big shout out to the Coastal Journal for this as well. Number 1, the discount window. Number 2, regular asset purchases. And number 3, overnight repo. Here we actually see all of the liquidity injections so far this year. On the bottom, we have assets, liquidity, and credit facilities. This is loans. We could see that skyrocketing towards roughly the beginning of June. Here we also have the overnight repurchase agreements. Again, skyrocketing June 30th. And then we also have on the bottom right, that's the assets, other repurchase, and then also the NASDAQ. They have been pushing liquidity into the market. This is showing us that number 1, the Fed is propping up markets in a huge way. Number 2, liquidity is flooding the markets, which is going to impact even crypto. And number 3, I do believe that this is going to lead to a rate cut decision because it's easing money. Here we have over here. This is from Logan Jackson. We have liquidity. More liquidity equals cheaper borrowing, equals more risk taking, equals higher asset prices. It's not complicated. When money is easy, markets go up. Inflation may not manifest immediately at the grocery store, but it propels asset prices, encourages risk taking, and generates an illusion of stability. The market continues to thrive as long as the music plays, but eventually someone pays the price. Stay informed, the game isn't free. And yeah, it's not free. But what's crazy about this is that the Fed is going to continue to do this as long as they can do it at cheap borrowing. They won't be able to do that until they cut rates even more. So far in 2025, we had 0 rate cuts. The Fed is injecting liquidity. This is a huge signal that they are going to cut rates. It may not be in July, but September will definitely be a big month to watch for a rate cut decision. If we get one in July, though, expect much more liquidity to flood the market from the Fed. And yes, this is going to lead to inflation hitting the markets again, which is why I said that probably by the end of this year into the beginning of 2026, you will want to be taking some profits off the table 100%. Now, when it comes to Bitcoin, Bitcoin is still ranging here. We're still just kind of in this wedge. This is what the next target looks like, 120K. Still waiting for a much larger break above this. We already kind of retested it, but we lost the trend today with the sell-off. I still believe that we're going to see Bitcoin break out in a huge way very soon, just to catch up to stocks. Stocks and Bitcoin, listen, these two follow each other very, very close. And when I say these two follow each other, Bitcoin mainly follows stocks. So whatever stocks are doing, Bitcoin will follow. We are just brewing here, waiting for that move to actually show up. I do think that we probably get it by the time, I would say by the time that we get this weekly candle close. So within 5 days, we will probably be trading significantly higher on Bitcoin. But outside of Bitcoin, I'm mainly looking at altcoins, because altcoins against their Bitcoin pairs are starting to show a little bit of, a little bit sign of life. Okay. And that's because the total 3 against Bitcoin is starting to have a nice little impulsive move off of this trend. We have yet to actually break out of this. We haven't broken out of this at all. And I mean, this has been selling off since going all the way back to 2023. Technically speaking, this did hit a high back in October of 2022. So this chart is just brewing for a much larger move, very similar to the past previous moves. Like, for example, here we have 2018's high, sold off massively all the way into 2020. Then 2021, this thing just skyrocketed all the way into, of course, 2022. We're watching this closely for another big move like the 2021 timeframe, where altcoins just skyrocket against Bitcoin. Again, we're just waiting patiently for Bitcoin to break out so that we could watch Bitcoin dominance break down while the entire environment is playing to this entire film. The film is that we're going to see the markets trading significantly higher because the Fed is now injecting liquidity. The Fed injecting liquidity is a huge sign that they're going to cut rates within the next at least 3 months. And within that, the markets are going to go absolutely nuts. And stocks already made a new all-time high. We're just waiting for Bitcoin to make a new all-time high. And then that's when altcoins really start to wake up. This entire market right now is extremely bullish. I've been talking about it for weeks now. I know that you guys are probably tired of hearing about it, but just know that I said, even back here, when Bitcoin was trading at $70-some thousand, $80-some thousand, that I'm still extremely bullish. Everyone during this time was saying significantly lower price action on Bitcoin's coming next. Guess what? We ended up breaking out, making a new all-time high into May. Now we're just consolidating and we're trading sideways, yet everyone is a little bit panicky. Guess what? I don't think that this is the time to be panicking. In fact, I think that now is the best time to be focused on what the Fed is doing, which is flooding the market with liquidity, which is why stocks are making a new all-time high. And yes, Bitcoin will follow this. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.